Kamakura period lasted from 1192 to 1333 CE. The highlights of the period were Yoritomo Bakufu government, feudalism, Hoji regency, Joi Shikimiku legal code, Buddhism expansion, Mongol invasions, and the civil wars. Kamakura period emerged with the defeat of Taira clan from Yoritomo of Minamoto clan in the Genpei War. Kamakura period known for the emergence of the samurai warriors and for the establishment of feudalism in Japan. Let's understand the functioning of the Kamakura feudal society. Majority people were commoners as merchants, artisans, farmers, fishermen, ashigaru, the foot soldiers. Above them were ronin who had privileges like samurai but they had no authority and they had to do the odd jobs. And above ronin were samurai. Samurai were fighting soldiers who provided service to the lord, trained from birth with martial skills and political prowess. They were loyal to their families and who led their families got in charge of their allegiance. It decided which clan you served. These family leaders sworn their loyalty to shogun. Then were the shugos. Shugo military land governors who ruled swamps of land territories belonged to the mighty samurai family. They were recognized by the shogun and were given lands for their loyalty. Appointed to oversee one or more provinces, Shugo progressively supplanted Kokoshi's civil governors, who were appointed by the imperial court in Kyoto. Shogo's strength made of not only his own family but lesser families, vassals, with prominent samurai figures in service who were loyal to him, altogether forming a clan. Above many shugos was the shogun, who ruled the shogunate. He was the ruler of the warrior class and samurai owed their loyalty to. Shogun not only had the ability to command shugo but also distribute land to loyal shugos and to take away from enemies, to limit power of rivals and weaken them in order to maintain order and stability. Shogun and the shogunate had to be subservient to the emperor, the divine ruler of Japan. At the imperial court, he was a real political leader. Along with double political families, Kogyo, emperor were however figurehead. True power came from shogun and the shogunate. Kamakura was named for the city where Yoritomo set up his headquarters of his military government, known as the Kamakura shogunate or the Bakufu. Yoritomo established a new government called as Bakufu, the 10th government. However, the government often called as shogunate as he was given military title Sei Tai Shogun by Emperor Go-Daigo. They followed Fujiwara form of house government, Mendokoro administrative body, Samurai Dokoro guarded shogunate, gave judgment in peacetime and took leadership in wartime, Manchuzo, the board of inquiry. Yoritomo appointed steward, also known as Jito, official who is appointed by the legal ruling monarch to represent them in a country, synonym to the regent for the estates. Constables, known as shogo for the provinces, officials appointed by shogun to oversee a province or more provinces of Japan, as shogun Yoritomo was both the steward and the constable. At the top of shogunate or Bakufu government was the shogun. Below shogun was shiken, who was important regent. Originally, Hojo family were shiken to the Minamoto shogun, who later started puppeting the shogun himself. Alongside shiken was rensho, who were assistant to shiken. Below it was hyujosho, who were council of judiciary who would enforce shogun law and the policies. However, it is underneath these where government functioning subdivided into two parts. Central administration governed the central affairs and the local administration governed the rest of the country. Under the central administration, Komanju and Mandokoro used to manage finances and wealth intake from various provinces of Japan. Manchuzo used to take inquiries and settle disputes, usually bring them to Hyojosho. Below it was Samurai Dokoro, who were essentially the official army of the shogunate, safeguarding its well-being and exercising justice to those who broke shogun laws. Hikisuke used to work to develop cases for the Hyojosho. Under the local administration was the Kyoto Shogun. Kyoto Shogun official in charge of affairs in the capital and roughly in all of the Japan. As shogun had work at the center and capital, this Kyoto Shogun along with the Rokuhara Tendai form of secret police exercised shogunal authority. Shinjin Bogyo along with Shinjei Tendai purpose was to maintain stability in the west. Their original purpose was to ruling out all support for opposing Minamoto family members. Later their focus went into military defense when Mongols invaded. Below Shinjin Bogyo was Oshosu Bogyo, who maintained stability in the northern region. Beneath them were all of those shugos, military land governors who ruled over large territories over the country. Jito are essentially stewards in charge of many provincial affairs such as collecting taxes. They were independent, but in time, Shugo dominated them. Kamakura was not a national regime, although controlled large tracts of land. Warfare continued against northern Fujiwara in 1118. Nine was defeated by Yoritomo, and 100 years long prosperity of the north disappeared. Old court resided in Kyoto, while military families were attracted to Kamakura. However, Yoritomo failed to consolidate leadership of his family on a lasting basis. His death in 1199 CE led to quarrels for supremacy between Kamakura Bakufu and the imperial court in Kyoto. By early 13th century, Hojo Tokimasa of Hojo clan, branch of Taira clan, who allied with Minamoto in 1180, had established regency for shogun. Head of Hojo was installed as regent, Shiken for shogun. Later positions Tokosu and Rensho with similar power were created. Hojo Masako, daughter of Tokimasa, was married to Yoritomo. Her first son Minamoto no Zori ruled 1202 to 1203 CE. Second son Minamoto no Sanetomo became shogun with Hojo Masako and Tokumasa as the regents. Masako was ambitious, able, ruthless, and formidable, also known as non-shogun, as she had retired to convent after Yoritomo's death. Second son got assassinated after 16 years reigned by nephew, son of elder brother, who too got assassinated. Thus Yoritomo line extincted. Hojo family ruled. Jokyo War between Emperor Go-Toba and second regent of Hojo, Yoshitoki, led to emperor exile after defeat, where he wrote celebrated poems for 18 years of his life. Jokyo disturbance ended in 1221 with defeat of imperial army by Hojo clan. They achieved complete control over Japan. Land redistribution won loyalty among all powerful people. Under Hojo, shogun became powerless figurehead. Shogun constable gained greater civil power, and the court retained extensive estates, although deprived of political power. There is a long line of Hojo regent shogun who ruled on behalf of minors or puppet shogun. The last Kamakura shogun was Hojo Moritoki from 1327 to 1333 CE. Several significant administrative achievements were made during the Hojo regency. Goseibai Shikimuku, also known as Joi Shikimuku, is the legal code of Kamakura shogunate in 1232, reflected profound transition from imperial code to militarized society. While 500-year-old Confucian principles were still basis of legal practices, new code was highly legalistic document. It stressed duties of steward and constables, provided means for settling land disputes, established rules governing inheritances, stipulated punishments for violators, remained effective for next 635 years. Literature of the time reflected the unsettled nature of the period. Hojoki, Square Joe Record, popular short book, describes turmoil of Buddhist concepts of impermanence and vanity of human projects. Heiki Monogatari narrated rise and fall of Taira, replete with tales of wars and samurai deeds. Second literary mainstream was anthologies of poetry in the Shinkokin Wakoshu, 20 volumes produced between 1201 to 1205. Expansion of the Buddhist teachings. 6 new Buddhist schools were founded. New Buddhism or Shinbukyu. Honen and Shinran were the first originators of the Kamakura Buddhism. Honen in 1133 to 1212 founded the Japanese Pure Land School or Jodoshu. Pure Land is the celestial realm or pure abode of a Buddha or Bodhisattva in Mahayana Buddhism. Shinran from 1173 to 1263, he had founded the Jodo Shinshu sect, also known as Shin Buddhism or True Pure Land Buddhism, which was founded by Tendai Japanese monk Shinran, the most widely practical branch of Buddhism in Japan. In the later part of the 12th century, Dogen and Issai traveled to China and upon their return to Japan founded respectively Soto and Rinzai schools. Issai from 1141 to 1215, he had founded the Rinzai school of Zen. Dogen from 1200 to 1253, he had founded the Soto school of Zen. Dogen rejected affiliations with secular authorities, whereas Issai actively sought them. Issai thought that Zen teachings would revitalize Tendai school. Dogen aimed at pure Zen teachings not tied to Tendai or other orthodox schools and aimed to guide people to live in a secular world. Final stage of Kamakura Buddhism. 50 years after Honan led to religious innovation as aristocracy declined, a military class exerted new influence and Buddhist-infused local kami practice and flourished among peasants. Nichiren from 1222 and 1282 founded the Nichiren school. Ipen from 1239 to 1289 founded the Jishu branch of Pure Land Buddhism. Nichiren and Ipen attempted to create down-to-earth teachings rooted in daily concerns of the people. Nichiren rejected next worldly salvation, rebirth, rather aimed this worldly personal and national liberation through simple and accessible practice. Payne emphasized a popularized form of Nanbutsu recitation, emphasis on practice rather than concentrating on an individual's underlying mental state. Old Buddhism, Kyo-Byokyo, pre-existing schools of Tendai, they had founded by Saicho from 767 to 822, Shingon founded by Kukai from 774-835, and the great temples of Nara such as Kigon, Hosso, Senron, and Itsu, they collectively classified as Old Buddhism, continued to thrive and exert influence. All the 6 reformers of New Buddhism, they had studied at Tendai, Mount Hiei at some point in their lives. Shingon sect was largely supported by noble families in Kyoto. Tea introduction credit goes to Shingon. However, new Kamakura schools found followers among new Kamakura government and its samurai. Japanese tea ceremony had become common aristocratic pastime. As time evolved, old and new Buddhism distinctions blurred. Hierarchical had temple branch, temple structures evolved with associated rituals and form of worship. It culminated in state-sanctioned formalized schools of the Tokugawa period. Kongo rickshaw, two wrathful and muscular guardians of the Buddha standing at the entrance of many Buddhist temples in Japan. They are Dharmapala manifestations. According to Japanese traditions, they travel with Gautam Buddha to protect him. Their role is to protect religion from enemies of religion. Aggressive stances and exaggerated facial features of these figures stand in contrast to the calm demeanor of the Buddha enshrined inside. 2 Mongol invasions were momentous events in Japanese history. Nichiren had predicted invasions years earlier in a letter to the regency Rishu Ankoku-ron. Japanese-Chinese relations terminated after the deterioration of Tang dynasty of China. Commercial contacts with southern Song dynasty of China continued in later centuries. Japanese pirates made open seas dangerous. Shogunate had little interest in foreign affairs and ignored communication with China and the Goryeo kingdom. Leader Kublai Khan of Mongol regime in China in 1268 demanded Japanese to pay tribute to new Yuan dynasty and threatened reprisals. Japan rejected Mongol demands and dismissed Korean messengers. First Mongol invasion took place in 1274 after unsuccessful entreaties. More than 600 ships carried a combined Mongol, Chinese and Korean force of 23,000 troops armed with catapults, missiles, bows and arrows. These soldiers grouped against samurai who were accustomed to one-on-one combat. Local Japanese forces at Hakata on northern Kyushu defended against the advantageous mainland force, which after one day of fighting was destroyed by the onslaught of a sudden typhoon. In 1281, Kublai launched a second invasion. Another typhoon struck again, destroying Mongol fleet after 7-week fighting took place in northwestern Kyushu. However, Shinto priests attributed the 2 defeats of Mongol to a divine wind or kamikaze, a sign of heaven's special protection of Japan. Invasion left deep impression on shogunate. Chinese threat to Japan reinforced value of shogunate government to warrior. Consequences of the Mongol War. It was a drain on economy, new taxes levied for future defense needs. Dissatisfaction amongst who helped defeat Mongol as no rewards or land. This led to the decline of Kamakura Bakufu. Inheritance led to family property divisions, and landowners had to turn to moneylenders. Rolling bands of Ronin, the wanderer samurais, further threatened stability of shogunate. 1293, on 27th of May, a major earthquake tsunami hit Sagami Bay and Kamakura, killing 23,034 people. To try to place more power among various great family clans to ensue chaos, Bakufu decided to allow 2 contending imperial lines. Southern Koro Junior line, also known as Lancho, were a set of 4 emperors, Emperor Go-Daigo and his line. Northern Koro Senior line, also known as Hakochu, also known as Ashikaga pretenders, they were a set of 6 pretenders to the throne of Japan during the Nanboku-cho period. Method worked for several successions until Emperor Go-Daigo ascended, who overthrew shogunate and openly defied Kamakura by naming his own son his heir. In 1331, shogunate exiled Go-Daigo but won by loyalist forces aided by Ashikaga Takauji, a constable who turned against Kamakura in the Genko War. Kusunoki Masashige rebelled for Go-Daigo, remembered as the ideal of samurai loyalty. Died loyal to Emperor Go-Daigo, Kusunoki became a popular legend in Japan for loyalty and virtue, associated with phrase Shichi Ishu Hokuku, would that I had 7 lives to give for my country. 500 years after his death in 1880, was posthumously awarded highest court rank in Japan, Shoichi-e, by the Meiji Restoration. Nitta Yoshisada, another eastern chieftain, rebelled against shogunate and Hojo were defeated. He had committed seppuku belly cutting when his horse was killed at siege of Koromoru Black Fort, fighting for Emperor Go-Daigo during the civil war in 1338 against Ashikaga Takauji. Go-Daigo endeavored to restore imperial authority in 10th century Confucian practices. This period of reform, known as Kenmo Restoration, strengthening emperor and the court nobles over warriors. Forces who had fought against Hojo did not support the emperor. Ashikaga Takauji finally sided with the northern court in a civil war against the southern court represented by Go-Daigo. The long war between the courts lasted from 1336 to 1392. Go-Daigo was driven from Kyoto and northern court contender was installed by Ashikaga, who established a new line of shoguns. Trade continued with China. In urban settings, trade guilds were established, initially for craftspeople and traders. Villages began to grow in size as road networks improved. Technological developments, land reforms, double cropping, fertilizers, and better tools of iron happened. Women could inherit estates, be educated. Period of prosperity as fewer famines and epidemics allowed cities to grow and commerce to boom.